Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Kansas City Public Library's Make, Do, Tell Story, Episode 8. My name is Jamie, and I work for the library, and I am also a storyteller. And I am here to share a new story with you, and I've got a new activity to try out as well, although it may sound a little bit like an old one. We'll see. But repetition is the motherhood of learning, after all. So, we all, and I kind of like that, actually. I have found, like, when I read a new book, and then when I go back and I read it again, I pick up things that I couldn't pick up before. And so if I am giving you some things you're like, we already did that, try it anyway, because you'll come at it from a different point of view. You are a new person. You're at a new place in your journey as a storyteller. And so you'll get something different from it. So, on to the story. Today's story is The King Has Donkey Ears. And here we go. Once upon a time, there was a king who was not the wisest king ever, and he did something that irritated a magician, which is a very bad thing to do. Do not recommend it. Don't do it. But this king, he thought he knew more than he did, and sometimes we do stupid things when we think we know more than we do. And so there he is. That magician, for his revenge, gave the king donkey ears. And the king was a bit of a vain man, and he also didn't want people to realize that he wasn't as smart as he portrayed himself to be. And so he kept his ears hidden under not just a little gold circlet of a crown, not even a gold circlet with lots of jewels on it. No, he had an amazing contraption of a crown that hid his donkey ears. But he also liked to have his face shaved every day. He loved that clean-shaven feel and look. And so he would have a barber come and shave him. And each time after a new barber came, he would say, "Do you notice anything odd about me? Tell me the truth." And the barbers could not help themselves. They began to laugh, each one of them. I mean, think about it. What would you have done? I think I might have laughed. But the king was not as honorable as you might hope, and he wanted to keep his secret close to himself. And so each one of them that laughed and said, "Yay, you've got donkey ears." The king had him put to death because he did not want his secret getting out. And that was a pretty sure way to make sure it didn't happen. So, in time, there were very few barbers left. And finally, the king summoned the master barber of the land. Well, the master barber of the land was no fool. A lot of these fellas he knew. And he also realized that each one of them had gone to see the king and hadn't come back. And so he did what any intelligent person might do. He sent his apprentice, "Go and shave the king." And the apprentice was young, and he was eager to, and he thought this would be quite something to do. I mean, to be in the presence of the king. And so he took his razor with him and his tools of his trade, and he went. And he shaved the king. And when he had done so, the king turned to him and said, "You did a mighty fine job. Do you notice anything odd about me? Now tell me the truth." And the young man, he was no more of a fool than his master. And he said, "I don't notice a thing, Your Majesty. You look magnificent to me." And the king was so pleased that he said to the young man, "You are the new royal barber. Your fortune is made. You will move here into the palace and live, and I will give you lots of gold." Well, the young apprentice went back to his master to tell him what had happened, and the master, of course, asked what had happened. And he said, I yes, it went just fine. I shaved the king. He was so pleased with my work that he has appointed me to be the royal master, and I am moving into the palace. Thank you for your training. Here is my first bag of gold that I received for my work to pay off my apprenticeship. And then he took his meager belongings and he moved into the palace. And every day he shaved the king. And every day the king gave him a bag of gold. And it began to build up there in his room in the palace. A lot of gold. But the thing is, just as heavy as that gold was this secret inside him. The king has donkey ears. How do you keep that inside? How do you do that without it growing and growing and trying to get out? Because secrets want to be told. And he found himself doing everything he could to keep it in and contorting. And then it got so bad that he couldn't eat, he couldn't concentrate, he couldn't even sleep. And he went out into the country one day to try and distract himself from this pressure of this secret that wanted out. But as you might imagine, it didn't work. All the walking, the beauty around him, none of it. So finally he got to the edge of a field and he couldn't take it anymore. And so he knew that if he told the king's secret, he knew what would happen. But he had to get it out. So he found a spot there close to the fence and he dug a hole. And he bent down to the hole and he said, "The king has donkey ears, the king has donkey ears, the king has donkey ears." He felt so much better. He took the dirt he had dug from the hole and he put it back in and tamped it down, and that secret was there, safe in the ground, tamped in. And then he left and he went about his business. He returned to the palace, and every day he shaved the king, and it no longer built up inside him, and he was so pleased. But secrets want to be told. And it wasn't long before a tree began to grow from that very spot where that secret had been buried, an elder tree. And the shepherds who tended their sheep around, they were also musicians, because shepherds do have quite a bit of time on their hands. And they were magnificent musicians, really. And one of them, though, had worn out the flute that he had made. He had outgrown it, to be honest. And so he saw that tree there and this perfect limb for making a flute. So he cut it and he drilled out a hole in the middle, carved it out, carved the holes for his fingers to play. And when he had it done, he did just that. He began to play. But the king has donkey ears, the king has donkey ears, the king. No matter how hard he blew, no matter how often, nothing, no notes. Just, the king has donkey ears, the king has donkey ears. Well, you can imagine that news like that spread far and wide across the land, and very quickly. And it wasn't long before word got to the king that everyone in the land was talking about his donkey ears. Well, he only had one person who knew his secret, and he called that young barber and he said, "Why have you revealed my secret? I will put you to death just like the others," even though it's a little late at that point. And in truth, the king not only felt embarrassed, but he felt some relief, because secrets want to be told. But the young man, he thought very quickly. He said, no, Your Majesty, I don't even know. I never told a word to anyone. And the king said, there is no other way for anyone to have known. You're the only one who knows besides myself, and I sure didn't tell anyone. He said, "No, my lord, no. It is true that that the secret became a lot, but I swear all I did was I went far out into the country away from everyone. And I dug a hole and I said into the ground, the king has donkey ears, just to get it out of my system so I could concentrate and eat and everything. But how would I know that a tree would grow because he had heard about the flute and he knew what must have happened? Well, the king had grown very fond of the young man and he didn't want to have to end his life. So he grabbed him. He also grabbed the royal musician, and the three of them went out to the very spot. And the king had the royal flautist. He had him to cut down a limb and make a flute to see if what the young barber had spoken was true. And sure enough, when he began to play, the king has donkey ears, the king has donkey ears, and there it was. Well, there was nothing for it. The king granted the young man to live. He removed that heavy monstrosity of a crown that he had been wearing. And he tried to live from that day forward as less of someone who made decisions that might get them donkey ears. And that's the story of The King Has Donkey Ears. So this is a book that I've been looking at, story by story. It was written by Karen Chace, who is a storyteller and teaching artist. And this is step-by-step plans to teach story presentation to kids. And there was a really good one in here that I had marked, but then closed. So it's close by. I can feel it. All right, there it is. So your homework or your home play, whatever, for this next week is to say the sentence, "The king has donkey ears," a variety of different ways. First, you're going to say it like you're angry. And then you're going to say it like you're annoyed. I'll write all this in the bottom so that you know the different things. Annoyed, apologetic, bored, brave, eager, embarrassed, excited, happy, proud, puzzled. The king has donkey ears. The king has donkey ears. The king has donkey ears. So those are some different ways. Just try them. And if you have other emotions that you want to throw in there, do it. You don't have to be limited by the ones that I give you by any means. So that's your activity for the coming week. Give it a try. Learn to tell this story. And just like always, if you're an artist and you want to try it, in the class that Samantha teaches on Wednesdays, she has a comic drawing class. You can come and you can create. That's another way to tell the story. Don't forget that Kaisha will be here on Thursdays with some kind of activity with stuff you can make around the house. And also, summer reading has started. We're a little behind this year. Everybody might be. But we will have prizes for you and stuff to sign up. Like when you sign up, you'll get a book. Unless you sign up before we get the books to the library branches. We've got a lot in. But you'll get to come and pick up a book. And we will have activity kits in a couple of weeks as well. So for those things like Kaisha's doing. All right, I think that is it for today. Hope you enjoyed the story. I hope that you are becoming quite the storyteller. You now have a repertoire of 8 stories. Unless, of course, you've been doing work on your own and you found other stories that you love. I hope you have. All right, signing off for today. Kansas City Public Library, Make, Do, Tell, Story. Thanks for joining in. Hope to see you again next week. Bye now.